Greetings everyone, it's Paulie here with another episode of Balls, and today we have a very, very special guest. We've got Andrew Dewberry in the house.
How you going?
Thank you for joining us today. Now, we met earlier 2020 or late 2019 at Donny Tacos.
Yeah, that's right.
And you were playing basketball there, and I did a bit of research and found out that you played for a couple of teams with Basketball WA and whatnot. So let's talk about your basketball career. So firstly, how did you first get into basketball?
Well, for me, I've got two older brothers, and they are such sporty guys. They played everything from footy to cricket to just everything. Everything, you know what I mean? Like, I honestly just can't even think of all. But anyway, they started to play basketball early, sort of primary school age, and I just really liked the sport, you know what I mean? It's just the
Did you
pace
enjoy
of the
watching
game.
it first?
Enjoyed watching it, just the pace of the game, just the energy, and I super got into that. And then I started to play sports at a young age as well, but being disabled and trying to find opportunities to play sport was quite difficult. So
at school, how do they?
Yeah, well, you know what? At school, I always had a really good experience, like just in terms of always being involved. I was never really excluded with stuff. And, during PE and whatever, my teachers were so good to communicate with me and just figure out like what can I do and what do I want to do, sort of thing. And I always wanted to get involved. I never wanted to just sit on the side. And
you look like someone that wants to push the boundaries.
Yeah, for sure. I dabbled in a lot of sports as well. I started with swimming and played tennis for a bit and a bit of track and field and whatever. But
none appealed to you as much.
None appealed to me. Yeah, I think what it is about basketball. I mean, it's high pace. There's also the social aspect of it, because when I was doing swimming and tennis and track and field, it's individual sport. So yeah, you got no one to talk to during practice, and you got no one to just hang out with and just chat.
It's pretty solitary.
So basketball really helped me on a social level as well. Just I'm hanging out with other people like me as well in chairs, and they've all got their stories and they've all got their different situations, and it was good to just sort of come together and then just feel like we were like everyone else, because we're playing sport. So it was a massive thing for me to actually get involved in basketball, yeah.
And now, during school and after school, what then led to your career starting to take off in basketball?
Yeah, so during school was interesting. Like I was quite lucky to have some potential and talent in the sport. So from a young age, like I have my ambitions and I have my goals.
Well, you were still absolutely smashing those threes.
Yeah, and for me, back in, I think, when I first started playing in the state team, I was, 11 years old. And at
the time... 11?
Yeah, at the time, I was sort of the youngest to sort of play in that team. But I just remember, because I started when I was about 8 or 9, and you just play recreationally, just every Saturday go down and have fun and just muck about for a bit, but it wasn't until then I really figured out, hang on, I could go somewhere with this, and a huge inspiration for me career wise and ambition wise was I always remember 2008 Beijing Olympic finals gold medal match, Australia versus Canada, and just watching that and seeing Australia win it all, top of the mountain, was genuinely so inspiring as a kid. So I wanted that, and so I think it was like 6th grade or something, and I always remember after one social league game, my dad I was in the car, my dad sort of says to me, he goes, "Hey, got some pretty good news." I was like, what is it? And he just goes, your coach, wants you to play in the state team and travel with them later on this year. This was like 2010 or something. And I remember being so excited. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is like, this isn't just for fun anymore. This is now, I felt like...
How old are you when...
I was like 11,
Oh
I was
my
so young,
gosh.
And I remember coming home, I was so excited, and I told my mum, told my brothers, and it was so pathetic, because I was like, I genuinely started crying. I was that overwhelmed, I was so
think
excited.
anyone would.
Yeah, well that's the thing,
That's not pathetic.
Again,
that's a real emotion.
Yeah.
Anyone would cry.
Well, that's what I mean, and again, you got to understand, for me, just to have that opportunity, it was so overwhelming for me, and I was so excited.
You appreciated it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
That was sort of like my first, I guess, selection for like a state team. And that was a great experience. Like that was the first time I travelled, and then again, that in itself, that feeling of independence and that
your parents didn't travel with you?
No, they didn't. No, it's just me. And,
wow.
I'm 11-year-old flying over east, not by myself. I was with my team, but still, it's the first time. Don't have mum and dad. Don't have my brothers around. Don't have, So, yeah, that was super formative for me, and it was a big wake up.
What an education.
Yeah, exactly.
What a brilliant way to learn.
Yeah, and then just the experience of meeting other people from different states, and you sort of have that realization, all right, this sport's actually pretty big. People
It's
so
serious.
used to playing with your team and training with your team, and it was the first time you're meeting other people from people you've never met, and it's we all play wheelchair basketball. For me, that was mind blowing, but such a simplistic concept. But for an 11-year-old, I was like, this is awesome. So. Yeah, that was...
You're a part of something big.
Exactly. Something across the country.
Across the world.
Yeah, exactly. So
how did you balance school and...
Yeah, so that's when it starts to get a bit interesting, because, I wasn't just playing for fun anymore. I had my ambitions and I had my goals, and I really wanted to see where I could go. And I honestly, I was borderline deluded. I thought I was going to go to the London Paralympics in 2012, and I would have been 13. So there's just no way it was going to happen. But I had such a passion about it.
That's a good dream to have.
Yeah, and I guess from that moment, basketball was ball is life, as people say. But it really rings true, at least for that time for me.
How many hours were you putting in training?
I'm not sure, but it was... I think as a kid it wasn't anything insane, because I was still, a child, so nothing too...
But it was after school every day or before school?
We had games, games throughout the week, just socially against... But for me, I was just every chance just to go out
anything
and play.
To play.
You know what I mean? And get better and whatever. And then trainings was on Saturdays and stuff, and I didn't care it was on a weekend. If anything, it was the highlight of the week,
Other kids are psyched to go to parties. You're no, basketball.
I got training, yeah. So yeah, for a couple of years, that was just sort of it. And then I think a massive turning point for me was 2014. So about 4 years later, there was there was just a 3-on-3 round robin tournament of wheelchair basketball, and it was sort of everyone of all skill levels. So you had me, who was just a junior, and then you had people in the
national,
the state team, but people in that state, a lot of people in that team represent the national team.
Yes.
So it's just literally from at least in WA, literally the worst to the best. Everyone was playing with each other, so it was good. It was it was great experience. Everyone was playing with each other. So I got teamed up with a couple of people. We had one guy named Michael Hartnett, and from young age, I'd always watched. He played for the Perth Wheelcats, which is the team that represents Perth in the National Wheelchair Basketball League, sort of the equivalent of the Perth Wildcats.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been watching that team since I was, 6 or 7, and genuinely you feel you're with a celebrity. You know what I mean?
You try not to fanboy out.
Yeah, I genuinely was oh my god, and you know, I rocked up like, it's going to be good fun. It's going to be good fun. And then I've seen this guy, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, hang on, he plays for the Rollers, the national team, plays for the Wheelcats. They're really good at what he does, like just world-class player, like genuinely world-class player. And I'm, all right, okay, I better pull my finger out and better like...
Bring it.
And I remember that day, I was so like, just trying so hard to impress him. Every time I got the ball, trying to like dribble past people and try and shoot. I brick everything.
Oh no.
I was absolutely missing anything. But like, I was just sort of like, no, I gotta keep going, trying to impress him, like trying to like throw flashy passes, again, like throwing it out of bounds, but I was just like overcompensating, just trying too much. But anyway, it was, for whatever reason, he was just sort of like, man, I love your energy, like, he'd never met me before, I don't even think he really even knew about me before then, but he just was like, you know, you've got potential and stuff, and like, and pretty much from him is when I sort of started playing for the Wheelcats. Yeah.
So you've got an international basketball elite athlete giving you a personal compliment.
Exactly.
I mean, that's an out-of-body experience for you, obviously.
It absolutely was. It was amazing. I was so like, I was just starstruck.
Yeah.
I was just so in awe. And I'm just like, oh, thank you, you know. But from that moment on, I think, you know, for the rest of the year, or at least I think going into 2015 is when, no, it was 2014. I can't remember. Anyway,
but one of those years,
yeah, one of those years. I got the experience of playing in the Wheelcats, and it's interesting because I guess, you know, in the wheelchair basketball world, at least at that time, that team had some ridiculous players. Still does, but genuinely had two of the best players in the world, and I'm sure in their primes, one was the best, one was second best. What, you know, and then just.
And you get brought onto the team.
I just got brought onto the team, and again, it's so intimidating. But again, you're in that. It's almost just surreal, you know. For me, it was.
I think.
I'm sure everyone's just, you know, everyone else that I know is like, oh, cool. Andrew's playing, you know, Wheelcats. But for me, I'm going like, no, I'm playing in the Wheelcats, man. This is crazy.
It's huge, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I was 15 years old, and I was a little boy, and that was when. That was
You're playing against grown men.
Yeah. And it was a really big wake-up call for me, because it's like, okay, this isn't... I think my mind switched from the 9-year-old Andrew that thinks he can go to 2012 London Paralympics to, no. These are the big boys now, and you gotta keep up. And in all honesty, like, first 2 years, I was just like so out of my depth. But
well, that's what you thought.
That's what I thought, at least. But
not necessarily.
Maybe not. But if anything, it's what, you know. It was like they say, they throw you in the deep end, and you got to swim. You know what I mean? And I'm thankful to say, I think in some ways I didn't drown, but like I kept afloat.
Yeah.
And I think from that, not only just from a skill perspective, but it was a really, really formative time for me mentally, trying to adjust from being, again, a kid in a boy in a man's world, you know. And again, Michael was super supportive in that time, because there were days where I was like, no, I hell can't do this.
There'd probably be days where I'd break down and cry. Because you've got people that are bigger than you. You don't know if they're like mentally they're more mature. It's like how do you? And of course it's competitive. Doesn't matter if it's training. Doesn't matter whatever. You know, you got to. You know, the Wheelcats are such a successful team. I think probably the most successful
in the country.
Yeah.
So again, there is a standard, and then you've got two of the best players in the world. So all they know is the best basketball
and winning,
and then here comes 15-year-old Andrew. He's like, I don't know what to do, and it's just like, you know. But again, Mike was super supportive in that, and what was good, what I love about Michael is he you know, he's super firm but fair.
Yes.
You know,
That's
he was.
important.
I think what was super important for me is to be able to compartmentalize and almost be like, okay, that's basketball. But when it's done, the rest of life is there, and you got to make sure that like you're still focusing on
That's a very important point.
For sure.
I think all athletes could, or young athletes coming up, need to take note of that.
Yeah.
So, once again, just repeat that for us. Once basketball's done,
Yeah, the rest, like, you know, you still got the rest of your life to sort of, you know.
that's a good tip, Pete.
You know, so, yeah. And you know, there was a day, I think, sort of the catalyst that was a big shift for, I think, who I am today was, there was a day where I was like upset. I was super like just borderline depressed. Like I felt so
Drained.
and taxed. And simple question, but Michael just asked me, well, what do you like to do other than basketball? And for the first, like genuinely for the first time, I was like, oh, I don't know what I like to do. And he's like, well, like, I don't know, what are your interests? And I was just like, oh, I didn't have any. Like, it was just like...
Ball was life.
Ball was life. Or at least that's what I wanted it to be. And...
But you had nothing to balance it
I
out.
thought I had nothing to balance it. And he just said, well, you know, if you're just doing basketball all day, going home, and then going to school, and then not doing anything in your spare time, or you don't have any other passions, like, it's gonna stress. The stress is gonna get to you. So I don't know, I think from then I thought, well, I like photography, I guess. I like art. Like, I sort of, you know, I appreciate that sort of stuff. And he's like, well, go take photos. Start taking photos. And I was like, okay, I will. And you know, it got to the point where, I sort of had this almost crisis. I was like, I actually realised, I actually care about other things more than just purely basketball. As much as I love it, but I just sort of realised, it's actually not healthy for me to just...
It's not healthy for anyone.
It's not. And so, I started doing photography a bit more, and then at school, you know, tried to do like media classes, and I really loved it. I just thoroughly enjoyed it.
So that began your journey towards being a musician?
Yeah, I guess so. And like, I think towards year 11 and year 12, year 11, or maybe just before then, is when I got accepted into WACE. So again, another...
Australian Institute into Sport? Yep.
Yeah, and I think around that time, I think it was just coming up to 2016. So again, I had that mindset of, well, maybe I can get into this team for 2016. I'm sure people who are involved in Lucia basketball listening going, no chance, but still, whatever. So, you know, started going to WACE, and it got to the point where I actually had to leave my the school I was currently going to go to another school which sort of could cater towards just the fact that I was travelling a lot more and training during the day, and that was super helpful, and that was super like, again, like, because the balance of the pressures from school and the pressures from Wheelcats at the time, it all just started to like accumulate, and I was like, oh man. And
you're pretty young dealing with these sorts of things, bro.
And so when I transferred to a new school who had a program that could cater to that, and it gave me a really good opportunity to balance a bit more. And I guess the worrying thing about that was initially, because it was actually my decision to take, like, a 15-year-old being like, I'm going to leave the school. But I genuinely was feeling, this needs to happen for my health.
Yeah.
Like, not just physically, for like mentally, just because I couldn't stand. I just felt cornered at some point, felt a bit lost and...
Helpless.
Yeah, exactly. But going to this school side is called School of Isolated and Distance Education.
Oh, shout out to Side.
Yeah, shout out to Side. But so their program was super helpful. And at the same time, like, I think, you know, my parents they were supportive, but they were sceptical in the sense that I'm taking myself from a social standpoint, out of the environment of being around kids all day, people my age, blah, 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 because now I'm independent and doing a lot of online schooling, and whatever class I had was like a Zoom call almost, you know what I mean? Something like that.
But the social aspect.
Yeah, but luckily there was every Friday the school has a campus, so I could go in and I could meet other
people, other students.
Other people. And then again, another eye-opening experience, because a lot of my friends just, being an elite athlete, some of them just don't get it. They don't understand
the training and what's required and the time investment.
And even at my old school, just the teachers didn't really understand as well. And I think playing in a disability sport as well, it's not common knowledge in terms of the
physicality,
the physicality or the pathway, the career pathway, and whatever. And I always remember, I think I was just having something stupid, I didn't do my homework, I struggled to finish it.
Yeah.
And the teacher's like, oh, well, why didn't you finish it? I said, well, I had wheelcats training. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe you should just quit for a bit. And I'm thinking well,
this is the wheelcats. I'm representing the state.
Exactly. That's in my mind that's.
But you can't say that to the teacher.
You can't say that to them. But it was so good going to side and meeting other athletes, and I still keep in touch with some of them today, and it's so refreshing to be to talk about your experience in terms of trying to balance life and basketball, and at the time studying, and we're still at this age, a lot of people are going to uni and stuff, so there's still that element of
that age, people are still trying to find themselves and learn out who they are as a person.
Absolutely.
That's your personal development at that time. So much is going on.
Yeah.
It's such a confusing time.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So they don't get that, what you're doing and the workload and the stresses involved.
Yeah, it's just.
But
that's not their fault. It's just a different lifestyle. But at the same time, again, meeting those people that do understand, you just talk about it and you really connect, and you're on the same level, and it's very therapeutic.
You don't feel as alone.
No, absolutely. And that, I think, again, that was the scariest part from leaving my old school, was the fact that okay, well, I'm not going to see my friends, and I'm not going to every day.
A new social structure.
Yeah, a new social structure, or such a lack of it almost. But luckily, towards year 12, I got to reconnect with a group of boys from my old school, and I'm still close with them today. So, I still had to have, a bit of drive in myself to, okay, I still got to keep in touch with people, because it's not purely the situation's, I guess, fault. I still have to be independent in myself to actually put myself out there and still keep in touch with people, and try and keep my friends, because again, that's just another thing that I value, as much as I love basketball.
But you understand the importance of balance.
Yeah,
that's something
for sure.
that rings true. You do understand the importance of balance.
Yeah.
I do have a question. How do you keep driving yourself after having, you've got teachers that don't understand what you're going through. You're not able to see your friends because you're moving to a new school. You're working, training long hours.
Well, when I got into weights, super picked up every day.
Yeah, that's.
And that was independent from wheelcats. So that would be,
oh my gosh! You're doing a ridiculous 60-hour week or something more.
Yeah, so it was a lot.
What are you feeling at that stage? Because you're quite young.
Well, I was fit. I was fit.
You were handling it.
Yeah, I think. I was handling it, but there is that element of. Well, I think from wheelcats, it did help me adjust and. Be more prepared for that sort of rigorous training sort of schedule, and also as well, that's when I started to get my foot in the door for national level. So I started because most of the national team's coaching staff is sort of based in WA. So whenever they'd have training camps. Like I was lucky enough to be invited and be involved more as sort of like a get to come along and just sort of experience it. Again, that's not like, you know, and I thought Wheelcats was tough. Now that's, again, all the best players from across the country. So I guess you can say, I mean, the Wheelcats had a, you know, bloody good team, but obviously not all of them were the nation's best. Now everyone is the nation's best. So I have to go to another level now. And again, but that was such a good experience. And then again, you know, I'd have days where on a school day I got to get up first thing in the morning and head to Waith, where we're doing like a full day of testing or training or.
And then go to school.
Yeah, and then I'd have to just go home. And I was so lucky because I honestly lived like pushing distance from.
Oh, sweet.
Waith. So,
that's great.
And I had my car at the time, and I probably didn't have my license. If I was on my L's, I'd probably just, you know, sneakily drive down because it was so close. But yeah, I'd do that, do the training, and then I'd go home, do whatever work I need to do, and then with those rollers camps, I'd probably have to go back again in the afternoon or in the evening and do another session. So.
And did this eventually lead to your love of training and coaching? Because I understand now you're currently training.
Yeah. Recently I've just picked up a bit of a just side gig of just coaching basketball at Christchurch Grammar School. And
being able to then pass all your experience and knowledge from state, national level to these kids is huge.
Yeah, well, it's not difficult, but like, you know, I think the level that I am coaching is their basketball IQ and knowledge is not exactly, you know, these are boys that sort of just, you know, winter sports, no, summer sport, you know, just need to play and they've picked, you know, it's not really the highest level, but, you know, there are definitely ways that I'm trying to like instill some knowledge in them.
Yes.
And it's not even, you know, it's not even,
do they understand how lucky they are? I've got to cut you off here. I've got some highlight tapes of Andrew sinking threes from unbelievable positions in the courts. You need to check him out on YouTube. And if you are being trained by him, you are extremely lucky. Sorry, please continue.
Thanks.
I'm going to give you a plug there.
But yeah, like, you know, there definitely was, I think the first couple of weeks before we started the season, we had some training and stuff, and it's, you know, I'm training like 14-year-old boys, so there's the attitude that, you know, there's typical like 14-year-old boy like apathy and just like But after the first game, we you know, I think we had a really good sort of comeback and just like we ended up winning or something like that. And you can see the penny drop, and they're a bit like, all right, Andrew does know a little bit. Even if it's the most basic concept, you know what I mean? You know, I'm not writing up, you know, set plays and stuff, but it's just simple stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, for me, like when I first sort of got the job, you know, for a lot of people, it's sort of like, oh, it's cool. I get to rock up every week and I'm getting paid good money. I just got to look after the boys. For me, I'm like, okay, I'm coaching these boys now. Okay, what do I got to do? What plays do I want to run, or what you know, how am I going to handle working with different personalities? And I got in touch with Michael, and he said to me, and it was funny because the first thing he says to me is, so like, what's your philosophy? And I was just like, philosophy? He's like, well, yeah. He's like, you got your X's and O's and stuff, but like, what like attitude-wise and like principle-wise, like what do you want these boys to be? And I was a bit like, right, I'll get back to you on that. Let me have a think. And then, yeah, that's the main thing for me, because, again, eliminate the fact that these boys are playing a sport, and at the end of the day, you got 4 quarters, you got to, whoever scores the most points win. I just want them to go out, just have, you know, show a bit of class, don't be mouthy, show respect to the other players, show respect to each other, game officials, and even each other.
Yes.
Because there are times where they squabble amongst themselves. You know, you've got to pull them back and ask. And at the end of the day, it's so cliche, but like you guys are on the same team.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's true. They will bicker amongst each other.
Yeah. And I think what's actually really helpful is like, you know, you don't want to like the prime objective is just to win.
Yeah.
But losing happens, and I think it's actually a really good thing to lose sometimes, because
understand how to lose.
Yeah, because it's a learning experience, and like, you know, you can go undefeated, but you'll see like when the situation changes
and they're not winning that game, do they fall apart or they stay together? Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a clear sign of, all right, what needs to be worked on.
And so sort of that's what you're instilling in your players is that never give up, always show class. I love that. I love that.
Well, we had a loss to one of the schools last week, and you can just see the boys are just flat, completely flat. And you know, you just got to say to them, like, or at least I said to them, like, you know, we need to be prepared. Simple as that. And this is what it is, because the situation is not going to be the same every week. Because the school we were playing against were, you know, shooting more outside shots. They were like, you know, playing running gun. They were a bit quicker up the floor, and we weren't used to that. And in the moment, I'm obviously trying to do the best I can to, you know, like, completely eliminate that or mitigate that. But, you know, I was just saying to the boys, like, all right, so next training session, like, we need to be focused. We need to be focused, because, you know, training, to be fair, it's at like 6:30 in the morning, and who wants to be
whose brain is on
exactly, you know? But at the same time, it's like, well, boys, like,
this is
at the end of the day, like, what do you care about? Because it's like, if you want to win, this is the necessary steps we need to take. We need to be focused and well prepared at training, so that way when
it teaches them that hard work does pay off.
Yeah, exactly. And
you've got to put in that work before, those hours training before, whether it be for athletics or anything else.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to be, you know, like overbearing or like too authoritarian as a coach, because I understand it's, you know, for them it's just the sum sport. But at the same time, and it's probably just the inner elite athlete of me coming out. It's just like, I don't want to half-ass anything. Like, I really hate that. You know what I mean? And if any, like, you know, it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes I care too much. So if it doesn't go right, it hurts. But at the same time, like, yeah, you don't want to rock up.
But when you give 200%, how do you feel afterwards?
Oh, it's super.
Yeah.
Oh,
no matter what the task is.
Yeah, it's like, you know, very high risk, high reward.
Yes.
You know? And of course, you know, I've been through phases where you lose and you just want to, it's such a smack to your ego.
You want to cry on your pillow? Or,
well, like, you know, even with the school basketball, like, we lose a game and I'm in my car going, God damn. And I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I sort of go, well, hang on a minute, you know, this is like year 9, this is like grade 9 Division C basketball.
But you're taking it seriously.
That's... And, you know, and so, you know, in that regard, it's a good chance for me to, like, think about it and be like, all right, don't get too upset about it, you know. But
it obviously means you care about these kids and their development. If you're getting emotional about it, you care.
I mean, at the end of the day, who am I to really try and be an influence? But at the same time, give it a crack.
Well, you never know. There's always that one kid that may not see another teacher or someone else as a role model, and you may be that role model.
Well, that's the thing. I think
you may not know.
For me, growing up, I mean, I'm still only like 21, but for me, growing up, massive thing is for everyone, for any young person or any person in general,
any person,
a role model, a mentor, because, you know, you come into the world, you don't know everything. And not to say that everyone has the responsibility, but it's super helpful. And I feel like everyone can benefit from
having a mentor.
And, like, you can tell with, you know, when I talk to some of the boys, I can tell they don't really have, you know, you have a conversation with someone and you're talking, and you're exchanging ideas, exchanging whatever. and you can just see the look in their eye. They're sort of like, I've never had a conversation like this.
Yeah.
And you sort of feel like
They're missing out.
they're missing out. But at the same time, well, cool. Well, if I can be that person right now, in this moment, to like help out, whatever, well then I'll do that. You know.
Is coaching something you'd like to do more of?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, now that I've done this, now that I'm doing this, and as small as it is, it's definitely sort of lit a fire somewhere that I didn't know. Because my Wheelcats coach has been super helpful in this sort of whole thing. Because
Yes.
he's like giving me documents, giving me training drills, giving me like...
He's taken time out of...
Yeah, well, when we're doing Wheelcats training afterwards, he'll sort of pull me aside and like, look, I've got this for you, and blah, blah, blah. But,
Great.
and he'll even invite me to his team training, because he coaches able-body basketball as well.
Oh, wow.
And, and that's just a good opportunity for me to sit on the side and just pick his brain and look at what he's doing, how he's interacting with people, what drills they're running, what do they want out of this drill, what philosophy are they running here. And yeah, it's super insightful. And I guess being so immersed in that makes me sort of go, I wonder how, again, with coaching now, well, look, I think at my age, I still primarily want to be a player. I want to play because it's fun and it feels good to just be out on the court.
And you're good. I mean, you don't need to say that. I'll say it for you. You're good.
But yeah, I definitely, without a doubt, in the future,
coaching.
I'd love to coach at some point. And that could be when I'm bloody 50, that could be when I'm 30, I don't know.
If someone now, say it's a school or some sort of sports club, if they wanted to reach out and ask you for training, is there a way they can do that yet or not yet? Or just hit you up on your socials?
I don't know, I mean, look, I'm definitely still going through a learning curve right now.
Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future.
Okay.
Well, I'm like, I wouldn't close the door on that, but, at the moment, I'm just focusing on this group of boys that I have. And, I definitely do think about, what can I do with this? And then what teams can I... But at the same time, it's like, hang on, slow down a bit. Let's get, let's get what's in my corner in order first.
Then...
Yeah.
Now, moving on to music. How did you get into music?
Yeah, so again, I think a huge thing for me was finding out what was my passion outside of basketball. And I've always, been into art, creative industries, media, that sort of thing. And when I finished high school, I went to TAFE for a couple of years and did a course in broadcasting. And that was, for me, that time I completely removed myself from basketball and then put myself into that. So again, it was another switch from okay, I'm out of basketball now, but now I'm into tape and I got to lock into this. And that was super good. And I got to meet people again in the industry that had the same interest and super just fun, because TAFE's very hands-on. You're working in a studio, you're using the gear, you're using the mixers, you're using cameras.
You're with other artists that are talented.
Other artists, yeah. Oh. But then of course, the competitive side of me is sort of like, oh yeah, is that what you wrote?
Okay, I can
run. Sort of thing. But no, it was super good. But then at the same time, I also wanted to not put too much stress on myself, because I just thought, well, I've just come out of, basketball. I think I just want to take a break for a bit. So yeah, no, it was really good, and a lot of, I'm still in touch with a lot of people I went to TAFE with. And
when was your first gig?
First gig? Yeah, so ever since I was 12, 13, I've self-taught. I'm always into DJing. My parents are very much so into, or were into, just sort of dance music, sort of house, techno, R&B.
You've got
disco.
very cool parents.
Yeah, I guess
They're very cool parents.
I gotta admit, sometimes, yesterday my mum was like, do you want all these CDs? And it was just all R&B, disco, house, and I was like, yeah, cool, alright mum, but anyway, so through them I've definitely had I've always loved music. And then I think as I started getting older, and 12, 13, I was like, I'd love to DJ. DJ just it just looks like a cool thing, you know what I mean? So, I sort of self-taught myself, And I'd always do it as just a hobby. Like in my own time, I'd always just be like in my room or just in the corner of the house just doing it. I'm not playing for anyone, just playing for myself.
Just mixing yourself, yeah.
And then, honestly wasn't until like this year where my mate was doing, he had his 21st. And he's just like, I need something to DJ. And I thought, yeah, cool, all right. And it was funny because I said, like, I'll do it. And there's that sort of like, do you DJ? And in my head, I'm going, I've been doing this since I was 12, 13. So I'm going, yeah, no, I do. And they're like, okay, can you do that? I'm like, yeah, sure. But then it also, again, it hits me. I'm like, I actually got to do this in front of people now. And I'm so like, I'm almost so, I'm almost in like a bubble with like my music that I listen to, because it's so influenced from my parents. My parents are a lot older than me, so like I don't know if people my age will like it. But at the same time, I do listen to other music that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I just did it. I just did like a 2-hour set for his thing, and I got a good response from that.
What was the response you got?
Yeah, well, it was good. Like.
Did you have many people come up to you?
The first session, people come at me like, great set, man, blah, 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 whatever. And I did a couple more 21st after that. But then when it really sort of took off was, I don't know, I think a friend of mine that I hadn't talked to in, honestly, like over a decade or something, had messaged me and she's like, hey, just gonna do a housewarming. She's like, heard you've been DJing, like come along and just jump on the decks if you want. Real casual stuff. And it was funny because I honestly had like no intention, because I was just like, I was so burnt out from doing 21st. And I was like, okay, like, maybe. I said, I'll pass, I'll see how I feel. And then literally on the night, I like grabbed my USB, just dragged a couple of songs that like, I was just like, whatever. Because usually when I'm doing a set, I like to think about it, like to,
have a build up.
Have a bit of like structure to it. Like, again, me just overthinking it. But anyway, I got to the party. It was just some house in Leederville, but it was like packed. There was like so many people there. And I was just like, this is just not like a house warming. This is like a legit like party sort of thing. And I'm sure a lot of people might just have big house parties like that. But I just wasn't expecting. I was a bit caught off guard. I wasn't in awe, but I was a bit like, oh, okay.
You thought maybe 50 people, instead it's like 300.
Yeah, it was like, I think well over 100 at least. And it was funny just because I was going around the place going like, oh, hey, is Maddie here? Like, because she's the host. And they're going, who's Maddie? And I'm like, well, who invited you? Like, what are you doing here if you don't know? Like, anyway, so
everyone was well behaved though.
Everyone's well behaved. Everyone's so friendly, and to be honest, like the crowd was not usually what I sort of hang up to. Like, everyone's so nice, stuff like that. We loved that. I was like,
that's
awesome.
Great.
Yeah. Anyway, so they like repurposed like the shed, and they just turned it into like a dance floor sort of thing. And I was like, oh man, this is like so cool. This is like, it was packed, people just having fun, dancing, and they had like DJs at the front. They had like vinyl mixers and CDJs, and just everyone was like hopping on and hopping off and just like, having a good time sort of thing. And yeah, I'd never really, and the music was so up my alley as well. Very like house, very techno, very dance music. And I'm so used to, going out clubbing and just your typical like top 50 charts and like pop sort of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my
cup of tea.
Just not my cup of tea. So as soon as I saw the setup and I just saw the energy, I was like, oh. I said to him, I was like, yeah, I think I will jump on. And he laughs because he's just like, oh man, because I was so adamant on not doing it. And then I looked at her and I was like, oh, this is like,
I've got to do this.
Yeah, I've got to do this now. So I asked the guy on the deck, I was like, hey, like, what time can I said, hey man, like, sorry, like, I've just jumped on you last minute, but like, what time do you reckon I can hop on? He's like, yeah, no, go for it, mate. Like 3 a.m, I think. And I'm thinking, right, 3 a.m.
Wow.
So I've got the graveyard shift, cool. But
So obviously, graveyard shift, there's not many people dancing.
I just hop on, and play a couple of tunes. Legit go for maybe like 15, 20 minutes.
So most people are probably outside.
Well, here's the thing. The whole night, no, it was the whole thing was packed. And then it gets to about 2:30, 2:45. It was like 15 minutes before I'm going to hop on. The first time of the whole night, it starts emptying out. And I'm like,
no.
and I was like, oh, just my luck.
Oh,
like, you
no.
know. So
you could potentially be performing in front of an empty room.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So it does empty out. I was like, and to be honest, it was quite empty when I first started, and I was like, right, okay, I'll just jump on. And my mate was with me, and he's like, yeah, come on, we'll just I'll go for 15, 20 minutes, and then we'll get going. And so I was playing a couple of tracks, and it was him, his brother, his mate, and then just 3 drunk guys in the corner saying. So I was like, yeah, cool. Fair enough.
Yeah.
3 a.m. But 5 minutes later, it starts to just swarm in again. Well, this is brilliant, And I looked at my mate, and he looks at me, and we both smiled. I'm like, yeah, this is more like it. So I just sort of winged it from there. But it was like the best response I've ever had. People are hollering, whooping, standing right in front of me, getting around me, people are coming up behind me, oh, great job, man, sort of going, I'm like, great. And yeah, I'd never had this before, especially from strangers.
What was it like to have all these people moving and enjoying themselves to music that you're... Yeah.
It's a pretty cool feeling.
It's got to be a rush.
Because it definitely strokes the ego a bit, but, essentially... I'm playing music for people, and I just
but
want
you're influencing their behaviour.
Yeah, and I want people to enjoy themselves. I'm not going up there to be like, yeah, this is my music, and I'm going to play it, and you guys are going to enjoy it. I've got to, you got to have some semblance of
yeah,
I've got to read the crowd here. But at the same time, naturally, I think the music I was playing people are into anyway. So, yeah, really good. And I remember the best part of the night because the warehouse. Not the warehouse, sorry, the shed. It felt like a warehouse, but the shed had lights on there, and you could see everything. And then I don't know, someone just goes, "No, we've got to really set the mood here." And they just whoosh, turn all the lights off. And I remember it was just pitch black, but all the light was just from the decks and on me. And I was just like, "Oh man, this is amazing! This is so cool." And of course, everyone loved that because everyone could recognise, it's getting real now. So I just kept playing. So for what was supposed to be 15 minutes, I ended up going for about an hour.
Whoa!
Which is pretty standard for a set. But I just was I was honestly ready to play a couple more tracks and then just go home. I was going to go home and go to bed. But no, I was like, no, I think I'll relish this a bit more. And then just some guy came up to me and he just sort of said hey man, he goes what's your DJ name? I remember thinking, well, I don't have a DJ name. I just said I don't have a DJ now. I said I just do this for fun because I do this for fun. I don't consider myself a professional or anything of that regard, And he just says, what's your name? I told him my name, and he goes, look, I'd love to book you for an event. Just I'll be in touch, sort of thing, and that was just when I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. I can, and that was when I realised, yeah, I think I want to get into this now. So that's just ever since then, which was I think earlier on this year.
So very recently.
Very recently, it's just set me down a path of I want to get into broadcasting. I want to start mixing more, recording mixes, broadcasting mixes, just getting involved. Again, in that industry, in that environment, because I'm just seeing what outcome you can get from it, and just seeing people are just enjoying themselves. It's just joy. That's it. You know what I mean? And if I can, I guess.
Or if someone's not enjoying themselves and you can make them happy from your work, then you've done your job.
Well, I just did a set, a Halloween party a couple of weeks ago, and a party I'd never been to, didn't know anyone there, maybe knew the host. I went to tape them years ago, and I did a set, and I played a couple of tracks, and you look at the crowd and you go, hang on, people aren't vibing to this. So you've got to have the ability to be what is going to get them moving? And I was so lucky to for a bit be able to make that adjustment. But yeah, so it's not easy at the end of the day. Like, you know, I'm not going to put my hand up and say like, oh yeah, the music I play always makes people dance and like they're always getting to it, and I'm just like so like no way. Like I'm always trying to.
But the fact that you do read the crowd and care what they think, I mean, I know there's some DJs that do not care what the crowd thinks.
Yeah.
They'll play their playlist because
and you know that like and I guess in saying that, I'm not going to kid myself and say I'm just going to play exactly what people want. Because otherwise I'm not enjoying it. And like, you know, I care about myself as much as I care about other people. I've got to have some sort of...
You've got to play what you love as well,
you know,
yeah, if
exactly.
you're not having fun. Yeah.
But at the same time, there's, without sounding too pretentious, there is like a bit of psychology to it, like...
Yes.
At least when I'm selecting music, it's like, okay, there's, for example, like, the reason why people remix things is because there's that sense of familiarity with a certain song. Like it could be a Britney Spears track, and when you play it and the vocals come, you'll be like, "That's Britney Spears." But because it's a remix, there's a new energy to it. There's a new dynamic now.
It can be released to a younger audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, people. I would hope to think that people enjoy that experience, because I know some people are like, "Oh, just play the songs that we all know." And I'm like, well, if you want to do that, you can just hop on Spotify and do that. But I think the whole experience of not even when I'm like, if I'm not DJing, if I'm in the crowd or going to an event, like I want to hear new music.
Yes.
Because like it's, you know, we all have an element of curiosity in us, and like we want to find out what's there. Like it's so boring.
Push the boundaries.
Exactly, push the boundaries. It's so boring if you're just like doing the same thing all the time, because it's like what effort's really being put into it. And like no disrespect to, you know, anyone, but like sometimes I can tell. You can tell when it's like, alright, this bloke's playing this song just because everyone knows it. And it's like, nah man, like, you know, I think part of being a DJ is that, you know, you get to express yourself at the same time.
Yes.
And I want to hear what this person has to say, you know, or play or whatever, you know?
Yes.
But, yeah, so like I said, now I'm down this path and I'm like super motivated. I'm super like, I just want to get involved. And like, you know, you having me on the podcast is such a
I was going to say,
yeah.
Fingers crossed, Russell and everyone listening, let's lobby DRN1 to see if we can not get Andrew on the station. We're going to leave all these details here below. Now, just before we'll wrap things up shortly, how can people get in contact with you? You've got a media, social media, a media account on Instagram, I think.
Yeah, so I just recently set up a sort of like a media portfolio, centered account, Andrew Dewberry Audiovisual or
ADAV.
ADAV, yeah.
There we go. I'll leave the details in the description section.
Yeah, it's also linked on my personal, on Instagram, Andrew.Dubes. And yeah, it's in the bio there, so you can go through that way or whatever. But yeah, no, I want to start posting a bit more content on that.
Well, guys, remember, we want to rally and get behind Andrew and encourage DRN1 to have him on, because obviously he's a local musician. He's got loads of talent. Now, if you haven't seen any of his work, check out his social media profile. And I just want to ask, is there anything you'd like to say or anyone you'd like to thank or anything you want to promote before we finish up today?
Not really. I just want to say thank you for having me on. No, it's much appreciated. And
thank you for having an athlete like yourself join us. So, guys, whether it be training, coaching, or music, I'll post the details for Andrew below. As always, thank you all very much for listening. Thank you, Andrew.
Cool. Thanks, Paulie.
Be sure you like and subscribe to DRN1, everyone. And as always, peace out.
Under 4 left, the barn is alive again. 52-51, Illinois. Griffey.